lot of programs there related to civil society, NGO sector, all of that. So there's that, and of course, his business, both his business and I think political career, as you just mentioned, the political article. Actually, I was just reading it a short while ago, and anything that you read about Musk is basically that he's really unpopular, and because he's the face of all of these policies, so his business has taken the business is not doing really well because of his politics, and his politics is not really doing well because of these policies. So yes.
Absolutely. And it was sort of an experiment, isn't it, also, Emily, very briefly, because have you seen this before? Like, you would have a businessman trying to carve out policies of the US, becoming so close to the person who's leading the free world, one would say, a major super economy of the world, and you have a business leader coming so close to it.
No, I don't think we've ever seen anything like this before. I mean, remember you mentioned the DOGE, Department of Government Efficiency. It's not a real federal agency. It was something sort of Elon Musk fashioned out of whole cloth. And I mean, we have never really seen that before. We've had business leaders wield influence with the White House, certainly, a lot of influence, but nothing to this level.
Business and politics, a deadly cocktail over there. But Seth, you're still with us. Let's talk about the other bit that you saw at the Shanghai Motor Show, which is about the super giant leap which is happening in the battery space for the electronic vehicles. And I think one example for that we saw was about with the contemporary Amperex Technology Company Limited, which is also better known as CATL. It became the world's largest listing this year so far on Tuesday when it opened on Hong Kong Stock Exchange. The company raised nearly $4.6 billion. It's also the world's largest maker of electric vehicle. Tell us about it. Tell us about this company.
Yeah, CATL's kind of the world leader in batteries. I think they make more, megawatt hours of batteries than anybody else, and probably the top two or three combined. They've just fashioned a way to make batteries less expensive and quicker and easier than just about anybody else. And it's interesting because they didn't really invent the lithium phosphate battery, LPO batteries that are so popular right now, lithium iron phosphate. Those were invented in the US and around the world, but they've just perfected the method of manufacture, so much so that companies in the US and all over the world are trying to get CATL's battery manufacturing put in places outside of China.
So what gives that edge to it? I mean, compared it to, say, a normal battery, where is that driving factor?
Well, it's not the density of the power. They are not the most dense power. Like if you want a sports car or a super high performance electric vehicle, you don't really want CATL's batteries. But if you want to make an electric vehicle that costs the least amount possible, CATL makes the perfect batteries for that because they can make them cheaper and faster, and they can supply more than anybody else on Earth.
Emily, your take on this, because what we are seeing right now is also the fact that China is spearheading when it comes to, first, as we talked about, electric vehicles, and then the batteries as well. And this again shows how much the world is dependent on technology in this sphere on China.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And what really struck me about this is that U.S. investors were shut out of this listing, as you said, the biggest of the year, and American investors weren't participating. And I was thinking back, 10 years ago when Alibaba went public, it did so on the New York Stock Exchange, and it was huge for Wall Street. A lot of people made money back then. Now, it just underscores that deepening rift between the U.S. and China that the country didn't even really participate in such a big listing and such a big event. I mean, lawmakers in the U.S. even called on Wall Street bankers to back out of the listing.
Wow, that's amazing to know that this actually happened. But could you tell us also when we're talking about this listing, because this company, Cattle or CATL, is actually a part of the China's domestic market, and then it chose to list on Hong Kong exchange, and the reason for that was to have global exposure and more investors.
Yeah, but still, U.S. onshore investors were locked out. So, it just again just underscores that rift.
Does cattle's dominance also affect the US EV supply chain and the push for more self-reliance?
Yeah, it absolutely does. With the tariffs going up and down, it's kind of hard to see how much, over the long term, how influential their batteries will be. But recently Ford announced a joint venture with CATL that eventually had to be scrapped because of geopolitical concerns. I imagine that other U.S. domestic automakers would love to make a deal similar. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there.
Nirmal, I mean, I've seen in India, for example, there are lots of these EV cars which are dependent on Chinese technology, e-rickshaws, which are again these battery-operated three-wheelers that have become so commonplace in many cities that they use Chinese batteries. Is it the same case in Pakistan as well?
Well, you're right. They are increasing. Although, the only issue is that, we don't have a really nationwide network of charging stations. But we're changing that as well. There's going to be, a new national electric vehicle policy. And you're right about the rickshaws. They want to give subsidies. I mean, this new policy will include subsidies for electric motorcycles and for these three-wheeler rickshaws. And because, it's also due to climate change and everything that, by 2030, Pakistan wants that, we're aiming for over 30% of new vehicles to be electric. But it needs, these charging stations. But as I said, that, we're working on launching our largest fast charging network for electric vehicles with BYD Pakistan and Hubco.
Well, that's interesting. But looking at CATL's rise, which was able to achieve this sort of global footprint after government subsidies, you spoke about the kind of government plans and rollout for this. Could this model be replicated elsewhere in Asia? Could Asia also, like countries like Pakistan, India, Sri Lanka, could there be a CATL there? Is it possible to have such kind of a global company?
Well, I think China is too big and too far ahead in technology anyway. But that's why this is the need of the hour. That there are actually climate change disasters waiting to happen. We've seen that a few years ago in Pakistan. So we have to come up with a policy that will, that actually help.
そうですね。今日朝の朝食は江頭製パン工場ですね。今日の朝食はここで食べました。こういうのアメリカのね良き時代のものを置かれてる、お店ですね。結構美味しかったですね。かなり美味しかったですね。こういう感じのお店です。はい。で、毎朝7時から開店して、確か木曜日かなんか以外は毎日開いてます。はい。幼稚園も近いのでね、結構美味しい人気のパン屋さんですね。ではこれで終了します。すいません。ありがとうございました。グッド評価ありがとうございます。